Good morning, everyone. Welcome to SPCC webinar, Scandinavian Workplace Cycle. And today we will be talking about resilient workplaces, and we will have a chance to find out the most relevant and current insights from top Nordic companies that will be represented today. My name is Agnieszka, and I have the privilege of running SPCC, Scandinavian-Polish Chamber of Commerce. I know there is a lot of our members joining us today, and also welcome to people who are joining SPCC webinars for the first time. I would like to share only with you a little updates in respect of Scandinavian investors in Poland in terms of employment issues. Before the COVID pandemic started, we had investors declaring that they will increase their employment. 67% of those companies declared increase about for 2,000 workplaces. We are now facing a recovery. And of course, during pandemic times, some companies suffered and had to make some layoffs. But we know now that people will be hiring again. So this is positive news for all the companies and all employers. We know for sure that there will be another 1,000 workplaces created within a few months' time, with the new investors coming to Poland, and you will have a chance to find out about one of those workplaces soon during this meeting. But also we know that with the green transition processes, energy evaluation processes, there will be new created workplaces. So we are happy to share the knowledge with you, and I hope you will enjoy this session. The session will be led by SPCC board member Wanda Brociek, and Wanda, I will leave you and the experts on the floor. Thank you so much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Agnieszka said, my name is Wanda Brociek, and it's a great pleasure to moderate this panel. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being with us. I hope it's going to be interesting for you what we are going to tell and share with you. You know, we will be talking today about resilient workplace. We will be talking about changes caused by COVID. And of course, how they influenced business, how they influenced labor market, real estate, and what's going to come, because we'll be facing a new challenge, and how Nordic Scandinavian companies are preparing for these changes. And today we have a great speakers with several Scandinavian companies from Cushman and Wakefield, from Skanska, from Ericsson, from SEB, and from 7N. And before starting our talk, I would ask you to introduce, for a short introduction, your name, position, and role in the company. Alexander, can you start?
Yes, thank you for the introduction. My name is Aleksander Szybiuski. I'm the head of workplace in Cushman and Wakefield in Poland. I'm responsible for creating offices both in Poland and EMEA region, and also currently helping companies get back to their workplaces. Thank you.
Thank you. What about Karolina? Can you continue?
Hello, I'm Karolina Radziszewska. I'm ED of HR and Administration for Skanska Commercial Development Europe. I'm responsible for both human resources, but also for our internal offices.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and a pleasure to be here in this meeting. I'm Danish, but I work for Ericsson, where I have the pleasure of being the Chief Real Estate Officer. And then on top of that, I also lead a cross-functional team of 50 people that are all trying to kind of define our future workplace as well. Ericsson is a company of 100,000 employees, of course, delivering networks and radio to the 5G networks and so on, so to the telecom operators. And we have 2,200 employees based out of Poland. But good to be here.
Thank you, Michael. Can we ask Lilia?
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for invitation. It's my pleasure to be here as well. Lilia Bońka, Head of Global Business Center within SEB Poland, the Global Business Center Analyst Hub that we create since last year in the COVID time, actually. This is the platform of talent and resources to support our existing and the new business in so-called home market, which is for us naturally is Scandinavia, Germany, Great Britain, Baltic, Switzerland and Austria and Holland recently, as announced. We aim to be 200 around in SEB Poland here as an analyst hub, and this is where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Jakub, it's your time.
Thank you, Wanda. Hello, everyone. Thanks to the SPCC for inviting me for this session as well. My name is Jakub Strzemżalski. I'm a vice president at 7N, and I'm responsible for IT services delivered out of Poland and India. 7N obviously coming from Denmark as a Danish company, so this is where most of our clients that we serve from Poland and India are actually in Denmark. And we're currently around 900 people in Poland and growing and moving on, even though the pandemic times. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for this introduction. Before we start with the first question, I would like to ask everybody who joined to put some questions on chat, because we agreed that at the end of the session we'll go through the chat, and there is also opportunity for you to ask a question to our panelists or to SPCC director. Okay, so what has happened, past months? We are in the huge change, but we are hoping for better. We are hoping that with the vaccination process speeding up, we'll have less cases and we will face a new change after these several months. And I have the first question to Alexander. Alexander, when can we expect people returning physically to the office?
So it's a great question. Thank you. So I would like to just comment on that many companies are struggling because considering that last year many companies tried to go back to the office. It didn't work out due to the fact that there were second, third, and fourth wave of COVID happening. And we see that companies are now hesitating to actually announce anything. And this is visible on the market. One of the things that we see that there's a lot of uncertainty. And reading one of the latest McKinsey reports about going back to the office, we see that actually it also impacts employees. So many employees don't know or are not communicated the clear vision of getting back to the office, what will be the vision, what will be the policies. And this is actually affecting people's productivity and their well-being. So this is a very important matter. And giving you an example of our company, we decided to create a clear plan. We created a change management plan for going back to the office. So actually we engage both managers, standard employees, and also we picked change ambassadors from different teams. And we created a clear vision, which was communicated by the company board members to employees. What will be the plan, how we actually made the decision. And this was very important that we took employees' voice into consideration. So also except doing workshops with change ambassadors, talking with senior staff, and we also did a survey. So actually we got clear data and clear vision, what are the expectations. But it is very important not only to look at what are the expectations, because sometimes the expectations are not the best for the company. And we need to look for a way which is in the middle. So actually it meets employees' expectations, and it's also good for the company, because if we will only look at the voice of employees, probably at sometimes it won't be the best solution, but also having clear vision and knowing why we want to get back to the physical space is very important. So those aspects are very, very, very important. And in terms of our company, we decided that we will go in a phase process. So actually the aim is to get back to the office for 3 days per week. And we start with 1 day. We know that people move to their hometowns. They have the different routines now, and actually going back to the office is a big change for them. So we don't want to create a shock and like going back from 1st of July or from 1st of September. We want to give them time to adapt. And also we are looking at their needs. So we are looking at things that will actually allow them to be more efficient. So there are activities connected with supporting their needs in terms of being parents. So there will be 1 day per week, there will be an animator for kids in the company. So actually there are different aspects. Probably I would take more than I can. So actually I would just sum up that this is a long process. This is a process that you need to plan. And when you do it, it's very important to take into consideration what people say, but not to an extreme way. So this is something very important that we need to find a way in the middle. And that's probably always the best road to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. I read lately a few information from Microsoft Work Trend Index report, and what employees said there is that they expect flexibility. This is what you were talking about, Alexander, what is so important. And from other side, I am active coach and mentor, and I am very sensitive also for people feeling, because what I can see during the session, people are frustrated, people are tired, people can be burned off. So it's quite difficult to look after their needs before they are coming back. And this is what you were just telling us. Thank you. Maybe I would ask Karolina, what is your plan for return to work approach? What is Skanska approach?
Mm-hmm. I think Alexander said something that's stuck in my mind, that it has to be the right balance between the interest of the company and employees' expectations, whatever these two are not aligned. So thinking about the psychological well-being and safety of our employees is our priority. In the same time, it doesn't have to hinder our long-term interest. And I would start with the fact that coming back to the office itself is already something that is already helping and will help. We never completely cut out the possibility to come to the office, but we restricted it with shifts, with different restrictions or meetings. However, now we're slowly shifting these restrictions, and eventually we think that after summertime, we will be able to meet each other and to actually be together. And this is one of the most important things when it comes to employees' feeling of belonging, feeling that you have the social network, social support. Secondly, we want to respect their wishes when it comes to flexibility. So in our case, we will allow 2 days of working from home with our support of different kind. I will not go into details. And thirdly, we ensured that in all our locations, we also have psychologists available for our people in case if they need this kind of support. As we have to face it, it was a crisis situation. It still is a crisis situation for the whole society, who has been cut out from the social support immediately and almost completely. Somehow, human brain seems to need 3D interaction with another human being, and online interactions cannot replace that. So yes, I would sum it up: psychological safety, respecting people's wishes to the extent that we can afford, and last but not least, stimulating these interactions as much as we can at the moment that it is reasonably safe.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Carolina. It's great. You are so well prepared, and you are trying to look for each individual, each person with this psychological and, accompanying by other person assistance. So thanks for this. Thanks for the findings. Michael, I know that you have also a very interesting data from the report I even looked at yesterday at the page while preparation, and it's more than 36,000 employees. The data was collected by Lessman in cooperation with you, and I have a question to you. How personal preferences of these people will influence the new space, shape of the new space in Ericsson?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I very much repeat also what has already been said here. I think it is a good combination of bottom-up insights and top-down ambitions. What kind of company do we actually want to be in the future here? And we have done quite massive research. As mentioned, we have more than 50 people working on this, doing a lot of research, working on more than 22 projects that will actually enable and support hybrid work going forward. But what we actually saw in the beginning, and we have done research over the last 14 months now, is actually that we want, and if we go a little bit back in time, how real estate was done in the past, it was of course very decentralized. It was very much around operating the factories and the offices and so on. Over time, and especially from 1990s and up 25 years and up until now at least, we have seen a little bit of a harmonization where corporate real estate units like my own here has been more centralized and more harmonized, meaning that we actually went into kind of having very standardized way of approaching the office, very standardized way of how we should design the office and the services that we deliver in the offices and so on. And what we kind of learned in the data that we saw was that we have very different preferences, we have very different requirements, and there is also very different needs to why we actually choose to go into the office in the future. So we could see that one size fits all will never work, and we wanted to go away from building a box, you can say, and then putting people into that box and ask them to adapt to whatever surroundings and environments that we created, to understand the individuals and actually understand what are the preferences and the requirements. And we looked a little bit beyond just the job role, because we could also see that the job role will not define how you want to work in the future and where you want to work in the future. So we looked into a number of things. We looked into the job role, of course. We looked into the purpose of why you go into the office, the activities you perform, the internal mobility, your external mobility, your work from home setup, and also your personal situation as such. We actually learned, and we have so much data, so we can actually see that if you have shared custody care, for instance, then it actually means quite a lot for how you would like to work in the future. And then we have combined with a number of workshops in the ELT as well, defining what kind of company we want to be. But a little bit going back to coming from a very decentralized unit to a more harmonized, going forward, we will see a more personalized approach to real estate and how we define the workplaces. So we have defined 5 different persona types, and the 5 different persona types, some are tethered to the office, meaning that they need to perform many of the activities, and they are quite centralized around the office. We have 3 persona types that actually choose to go to the office, but they choose to go to the office for various different reasons. So in one end of the spectrum, they actually go in there to kind of optimize the work, perform certain activities that are better performed from the office. Whereas in the other end of the spectrum, we see more culturalists where they actually can perform most of their job remote, but they choose to go into the office because they really want to feel energized, they really want to learn from each other, and they also want to have a strong sense of belonging and socializing and collaborating a lot. And then we also have a persona type that is defined as a globalist, someone who actually don't necessarily need to go to the office, but is in from time to time. And we use that insight to actually tailor our solutions. So if we zoom in on our site in Krakow, where we actually just did a persona survey recently, we can actually see what is the distribution of the different personas working in that specific site in Krakow. And then we can actually say, okay, what are the preferences and the requirements? What are the needed space types? What are the needed services and so on? And then we can actually scale and distribute the space types. How much collaboration space do we need? How much individual space do we need? How much social space do we need? And so on and so on. And that is a reflection and a mirror of how our employees would like to work from that side in the future as well. So we are running a pilot in Krakow, and we're also running a pilot in Lodz. So we actually have 2 of our 8 global pilots in Poland, where we actually try to redefine what the workplace is about and really reimagine what the workplace is, but with the outset from our persona and our insights to our employees.
Wow. What a structured at the same time personal and individual approach. Thank you very much, Michael, for this information. And now we are moving to SEB. And I know that SEB established a new global business center in Warsaw. I know that you were, of course, present earlier, but at this situation, you have people starting and people returning to work. So like both types. And my question is, are your employees really looking forward to be back? And which group is looking forward more?
Indeed, very important question for us. I should say, first of all, SEB as a financial institution, we never actually allowed ourselves to all work from home. Some of our colleagues, due to the naturally regulation and our customer expectation, led that some of us been working all the time in the office. So this is, from that perspective, is a little bit different side. But yes, the existing employees and also the newcomers in the Global Business Center, as you mentioned, Wanda, they are looking forward very much to return to the office. They are tired of being at home. They are, you know, especially those young, ambitious specialists, the picking new generation, they are hungry to return to the office. As you mentioned, some of them were hired during the COVID time. They actually never met other colleagues except their team members. So on that perspective, it's very important that we return, that we meet and you know, share the common culture, view, SEB way, SEB brain, as we say. Yes. When I talk to some of them, they say, yeah, we prefer to come back to the office because it's better simply to work in the office. It's about the productivity, it's about efficiency, especially in the new analyst center we built. So people want to come back to collaborate, but on the other hand, we also hear that they ask very frequent, would it be flexibility to work from home? So yes, naturally, the official status from SEB, from the headquarters, will be launched very soon. And the aim is actually to mirror the both needs from the financial institution, as we are, compliance, risk, regulation, but as well as employees' expectation. This is kind of win-win solution. So yeah, we are looking forward very much to return to the office.
Thank you very much. And people most probably also, they, you know, miss these corridor talks and close to coffee maker talks and all these relation and interpersonal interactions they don't have at home so much working remotely. Thank you, Lilia. Jakub, we were forced so much to new technologies. You can see our panel now. Normally, most probably, we would be sitting somewhere in the hotel. Now we are virtually together in this room. Tell us, what pandemic changed in companies' approach to new technologies?
Well, very relevant question for sure. I mean, well, a lot of companies have just been pretty much forced to get, you know, on a crash course in digitalization of whatever they're doing on a daily basis. I guess a lot of pretty much, and a lot of the employees just got a crash course in actually being fluent in using, I don't know, Teams, Zoom, video conferencing, all that stuff. So I think this whole digital dexterity kind of improved quite heavily during the course of last months. When you look at various businesses, I think, you know, of course, a lot of businesses were already relying on various digital both channels for sales, for operating with their clients, but as well, of course, the pandemic put things upside down, and some businesses had to completely readapt. So you can say that some of the big trends from last year and ongoing are among others, like doing a lot of the infrastructure work around the cloud. So putting everything kind of what is possible and within compliance and regulations. You can see a lot of investments into cloud technologies, into being able pretty much to work, as well, flexible from exactly various locations, not always in your corporate network, in the office. So, but as well to be able to have the scalability of the infrastructure. And a lot of the businesses as well would not survive if the automation would not be developed. So you can imagine that, and I guess all of us experienced that once we were pretty much at home, we were, I don't know, shopping online, using a lot of e-commerce, and all of a sudden the logistics, the things behind it, they wouldn't just survive without automation. And as one of our clients mentioned that, kind of so-called robots or processes are kind of resistant to viruses, right? So I mean, you can't. So whatever you can automate today and kind of take this so-called monkey work out of people. So make sure that things are running with various systems and processes automatically. That's one of the big trends that is actually happening. We can see an increased need in the market for these kind of solutions, and a lot of the processing of paperwork, digital signatures, all these things are really picking up. And while we're at it, and of course compliance was mentioned already by Lilia, and a lot of requirements towards risk management. So cybersecurity, and I guess you all have experience as well, like increased attempts to phish some of your accounts, accesses, privileges. So people have to be cautious. So organizations have to really develop the internal culture and knowledge of people to kind of really be much more aware of what are the risks, since we can't really control every single device our colleagues and employees are connecting with to the resources. So I mean, this is as well one of the domains that is developing, and it's not only technical technology, it's as well the culture, the knowledge, and education internally. I think that would be that.
Thank you very much. I had a reflection like this, if this COVID time would happen like 20 years ago, how we would pass it, without these Zoom computers and daily virtual online interaction. Wow. Yeah, but it's also so important about security, Jakub, what you said, that we should be aware of the influence, how it is, and we should have it still somewhere, in our head. Okay, moving back to the office. I noted a question, Alexander, for you. What will be the new elements of the post-pandemic workplace? Could you elaborate shortly about it and just describe how you see it? Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. So, in my opinion, the workplace of the future we still need to wait. We have some assumptions. As Mikael said, you can choose the elements that will be in the office based on the people and their preferences. And I agree with that. I think one of the elements that will happen is that actually there will be more choice, not inside the office, but also outside of the office. People will have more areas to go. They will use the co-working spaces. I think will grow during this time. So you will be able to, instead of going to your headquarter office, you will be able to use your suburb co-working space, where your company will give you a chip like Karta Multisportu, and you will be able to actually go there without commuting and actually connect with the people, have the socialization. In regards to the office space, we see from different surveys that one of the issues with working remotely is that you lose connection with people. Of course, if you're a experienced person with great knowledge, you're able to do your job, but actually limited to being efficient in your field, there are lower chances in actually you being more creative. So actually those functions connected with socialization and being creative are much more enhanced now in the office. Office is not the place to work. Of course, there are areas in the office where you will work, but the areas where you will be more creative, where you will have a chance to have less informal conversations, will be more important. So I think I always mention that co-working spaces are a good example how spaces and how to create spaces actually get people together, even though that the working spaces are very bad in terms of the amount of space. The common area, the community areas, as they call them, are great. They have big soft furniture. There's a lot of spaces where you can sit with someone. So this will probably will grow, because you also need to give a meaning to the new workplace. So actually, you need to have a magnet for people to come back to the office, because if the offices will stay as the same, people won't get back, or actually they will refuse to get back. Also, as I mentioned, creative spaces where you will be able to brainstorm in a physical space. As we know, the physical conversations are different from the ones that we have online. Of course, it's improving. We see new tools of being developed by Zoom, by Teams, where you're able also to, we are also able to see white walls or creative rooms where you're able to have a creative discussion in the virtual world. But we see that people connect better in the physical world. And also, going back to the socialization, I had a conversation with my colleague who was an experienced HR person, and she commented that when she will need to go back to the office, she will change her job. And I tried to understand her perspective, and she said I don't need to. I'm experienced. I don't need to go back to work. And I asked her what about your colleagues that will actually learn from you or grow with you, and also having discussions like the discussions which are the most, let's say, spontaneous, are sometimes the most creative, because if you're doing the work you have been doing for years, you won't probably find a breakthrough in terms of creating new processes or new ideas. And that was funny that she actually refused to think like that. She said actually she can do everything online, and she doesn't see a purpose in going to work. And for me, it's also there was a Gallup study that showed that people who have friends at work are up to 50% of those people are more creative and productive. And also, if you have a best friend at work, they can be even 7 times more productive, which actually means that it is important. Of course, you can say work is work, and you don't want to have friends at work. But in my opinion, it's the opposite. Actually, if you want to be good at work, you need to have good connection with people. And if you don't have if you don't know the person who's sitting in the room, or actually if you don't know if he has children or a wife, maybe it's not important for your work. But actually, if you know this, it actually allows you to work better with this person. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. So important. It's of course about building relation. It's about building trust. It's about knowing each other better. But I would say it's also about brainstorming. It's also about innovation. It's also about being together and having this interaction, which I really doubt we can do online. Yeah, we are trying, we are doing our best, but I don't think we can be effective, we can be fast, we can fulfill our tasks, but it's really difficult to cover this part you talked about. Yeah. Alexander would like to say? Yeah.
Yes. So actually, there's a comment that if you already have the relations, you're able to keep it virtually, but it's very hard to create the connection. So then the office might be a great place to actually create those connections.
Absolutely. Thank you. So true. So true about this part. Yeah. I have a note that Skanska and Business Link, they also created a report. And this report is called Workplace Flexibility Vademecum. And I would like to ask you, Karolina, can you share with us the main findings from this report?
Yes, absolutely, with pleasure. And I will start with something that is probably obvious by now, that physical office is not going to disappear. I would quote Mark Twain here, saying that the report of my death is an exaggeration. So office is actually here to stay because of this value that it brings when it comes to social aspects of working, and also very often omitted value of actually enhancing your career. So on top of all the things that have already been mentioned by Alexander, physical office also creates a chance for interactions with people who are not working directly with you, that probably can create further on advancement when it comes to being known for the positions that you might be interested in. And that's one of the interesting findings, actually not from our study, but from one of the British studies, that 75% of employees are saying that networking in the office helps them to advance their career, and online you don't have that chance. So for all these reasons, physical offices are here to stay with us. But it seems like the key word, the buzzword for now, is flexibility. And I would start with a statement that, according to our studies, companies are thinking of having a split of 70 to 30, of 70 of what we call core space and 30 of what we call flex space. And we knew that it can be a trend even before pandemic, so that's why we decided to partner with a flexible workspace provider, BusinessLink. And we can see that this trend has been accelerated. So this trend of flexibility is definitely growing. It had its pit stop during the pandemic because obviously the companies are first resigning from the costs that are connected with the flexible space. But as soon as physical presence starts picking up, this is what they want to have right now. This is the buffer that they feel that they have to have living in the world of uncertainty, when even planning headcount is very, very difficult, and therefore planning space is very, very difficult. And they are looking for this flexibility in different spaces. So first of all, they are looking for this flexibility in contract with in tenancy agreements. And it's not always possible because by its nature, these are usually less flexible long-term contracts. So if not in the tenancy agreement, how can we do it? And this is where this 70-30 split strategy comes in place. And when you are able to provide this combination of core flex that is less flexible, but in the same time more stable, together with this flexibility buffer that is flexible, it seems to be an optimal combination for most of the companies. So to sum up, Office is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And in the same time, flexibility when it comes to space in all shapes and forms is something that we are going to experience. And last but not least, we have also been studying a possibility of slightly different approach to the offices. So we were thinking that maybe the pandemic has showed that this dispersion of office space that kind of follows 15-minute city concept is going to happen. And we believe from our studies that it is going to happen, but in a slightly different form than we initially thought. So we think that we are going to have a network of flexible office spaces in the buildings, in the surrounding the center, not in the very center, that have another purpose. So, for example, small co-working office spaces in the malls that are in a convenient places, that are dedicated predominantly to people who do not have to interact with colleagues that much, but simply do not have the environment at home that would allow them to work in a comfortable and safe way. So this is less of a division of the office space within the company. It's more like providing extra opportunity to work from somewhere else than home for people who are otherwise not that needed in the office.
Thank you very much, Carolina. It seems that flexibility is really the key word, and I would say adaptability from employer point of view. So, okay, when we are talking about this flexibility, adaptability, change situation, when we are talking about people, we are human beings. Lilia, what you would say? What is the biggest challenge in managing or leading individuals and teams today?
That some of our leaders obviously seen a challenging situation in leading and managing employees, especially those newcomers. And here I would touch such a things like onboarding, like knowledge transfer, like sharing knowledge from senior to junior, learning from each other, collaboration. That would be probably the second point. So in general, we would like to make the new office attractive. So the people want to come and return to the office and work in attractive workplace. In that matter, we're kind of lucky because in a couple of months, actually, SCB is moving to the new place. It's Fabryka Norblina. And while creating last year the premise functionality, we actually were boosted and we considered all the changes and all the possible changes which might have impact on the future office. So we, instead of, desk and classic thing of the banking you might think about, we kind of moved and switched into a lot of co-working common areas where we boost creativity, idea sharing, and collaboration. We also think that hybrid meetings and remote meetings will increase. Therefore, when creating again the new office, we put on a lot of efforts on the digital setup and IT infrastructure. It's more better cameras with a better quality, better sound solutions, and so on and so on. Because we think that there won't be any more, big crowded meetings. We don't need big conference room whatsoever. Rather small, as long as the COVID remains a threat to us. So we also think that we will come to the office, not every day. But again, desk sharing, an application that Capital Park, the landlord, created for the tenants, will allow us to have such a desk, let's say, sharing and booking and making better utilization. So 70-30, that Carolina has mentioned. I guess this is very much in line. So we aim to be modern, learn from the market, attract the best talents, and to be the best. And challenges, leading, meeting. We are human at the end. That's right. So we would like to meet from time to time, and bring and take from that what is the best. That would be my input here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this human aspect. We know we will be back to the offices. We hope so, to meet colleagues, to build these relations, to be more innovative, to spend some more time together. As Carolina said, 70-30, but definitely we will not survive without technology. And here the question comes to Michael: how 5G will impact the office of the future?
My favorite topic. Thank you, Amanda. No, 5G will of course play a role, and if we start a little bit with the short term here, of course we have also discussed a little bit in this forum here, right? That the future looks more flexible, and we will give more choices to our employees and so on. We have recently launched our flexible work guideline. We always welcome our colleagues to go into the office, so they are welcome always to go into the office. We don't make it mandatory to work from home, but we do also envision that we will choose to work more remote in the future. And in the short term, you can say that actually means that you are not only connected to your corporate network in the office, you actually need to be connected, and you need to have a seamless connection wherever you are and wherever you work. And I think we have also experienced over the last 13, 14 months now that if we don't have access, and I think Wanda, you actually mentioned, or a little bit hypothetical perhaps, what if this happened 20 years ago where we didn't have the internet connection and so on. So we are quite, the internet connection and being able to actually connect with our employees and our colleagues remotely is just critical for us to be able to work. So here we see an increased need for good connectivity wherever you are, and that's of course where 5G will play a role. If we look a little bit beyond, you can say when we implemented 5G, it created a platform for new innovation. So suddenly we saw the app economy, for instance. We saw new apps like Uber, we saw Spotify, and so on. So a complete economy built around our ability to actually bring the internet with us suddenly. And 5G will actually enable the more industrial platform, you can say. And just to mention a little bit of research that we have done, which is a little bit scientific and a little bit science fiction as well. But we have tried to, our research lab within Ericsson have done a survey of 8,400 white-collar workers, representing more than 130 million employees around the world. So quite a massive study there. And they kind of look towards 2030 and what will 5G first of all enable, and what kind of platform do we actually expect around 5G. And they have defined a scenario of the future, and I say a potential scenario of the future because it's not necessarily the future, no one can predict that, but it is a fairly well kind of research scenario of the future nonetheless. And here we will see that within a few years, augmented reality, virtual reality, and so on will actually play a quite critical role for our ability to work remote. We in Ericsson, we are operating in 180 different countries, so we also have a high dependency on actually connecting with our colleagues in other countries and so on. And here we do believe that our augmented reality and virtual reality connected through 5G will play a critical role. If we then look even further beyond and actually closer to 2030, we will also see that when the entire augmented reality and mixed reality and virtual reality has matured a little bit, we do expect that we will actually see an increase in Internet of Senses. And what is Internet of Senses? Internet of Senses is actually that you can create a home environment working from remote. And there you can actually suddenly, not only, this is very two-dimensional, right? It's a video, it's sound. But in the future, we actually expect that Internet of Senses will play a quite critical role. That means that you can actually share a virtual cake with your colleague, and you can actually get it to taste like a cake, because you can suddenly actually, your mind and your body works in very interesting ways here, but you can actually trick your mind into believe that that virtual cake tastes like any cake you want. In the canteen, for instance, you can also actually work with and enhance through digital Internet of Senses, of course. You can actually get the food to taste whatever you like. You can also smell. You can shake hands virtually, where you can actually feel the temperature of your colleague you're shaking hands with, and so on. So we will actually see that you can say the boundaries between what is physical and what is virtual will, at least when we look 10 years ahead, will actually blur a little bit and come closer to each other. With that said, I'm also a strong believer of the office coming in, have the social connection. And I think we have also seen quite solid research recently from Microsoft going out with their trend report, where it says that yes, we have improved our relationships within our own units, but we are working more siloed now. We are working less across different units and so on. So we definitely still believe that the office will play a role, but our research lab has also kind of worked a little bit 10 years ahead and tried to say, okay, with the 5G rollout, with the economy that will kind of, and the platform that will create, what could a potential scenario of the future look like? So I think, and especially with the COVID, we have most likely seen an acceleration of that potential future ahead of us. So yeah, a little bit of an interesting, but quite scientific and science fiction future here. But that's at least what we believe.
Thank you very much. What a science fiction. However, I would say it would be great during the fika time, to taste the cake with the colleague. not only like we are able today, but to feel the taste. Yeah, that would be really fantastic. Thank you.
We basically figure out because now we are a company of 50,000 engineers, and when we see a problem or something we're missing, we simply just create it. So we have launched the Figure app where you can actually, it's trying to replicate the coffee queue. So you can actually click on a button and then you're matched with other colleagues, completely randomized. And then you can actually have that, or try to have that coffee chat, 5-10 minutes of a completely random chat, but actually trying to connect with each other across the different units, just like we used to do at the coffee machine. So we will see a lot of great stuff kind of evolving from the ways of working, I believe.
Yeah, I can imagine all Scandinavian companies, no possibility without fika time. It has to be secured. Thank you very much, Michael, for this. Jakub, you are coming from IT company. No one like you knows so much about remote work, and not only during COVID time, but also before. Can you tell us your reflection about remote work? Will it stay with us for good? Will it change? What about this, regulation aspect? Just share with us how you feel it.
Well, I imagine we actually need to have a separate panel only about that aspect. But yeah, I'm actually really excited to hear that pretty much everybody here on this panel is mentioning this human touch that is still needed. That is still, whether we're going to be using some apps or some science fiction, as Mikkel started to take about tasting a cake virtually. Well, wow, I don't think I'm ready for that yet, but. In general, I think, of course, the IT companies or IT in general as a domain had, of course, some kind of head start on this whole remote work topic, right? I was, from the last year, I was admiring a lot of the organizations or functions in the companies that had really no, experience with using all this overload of technologies and getting adapting to it. So I was hugely impressed by a lot of the activities. But yeah, I mean, flexibility is with us. It will be with us to stay for sure. I mean, within IT, of course, remote work and accessing specialists across the globe has been a thing already before the pandemic. It's been kind of nothing new, and a lot of some companies have been built completely to work remotely from day one, and even them actually mentioned that, well, you have to meet once in a while. And some companies that specialized in completely working remotely globally had maybe they didn't spend the budget on office, but they spent on some kind of retreat and getting together and creating this serendipity effect of kind of bumping into each other, sharing ideas, creating bonds and friendship, because without this, I mean, we can't really move on efficiently. Last year I think there was this kind of wave that everybody was admiring. Yes, this remote thing works. We can be like this forever. Well, yes, but last year we kind of moved remote while we have actually managed to meet and build relations before physically, right? So it's kind of it's a bit of a, I would say, a dangerous thinking that right now we can do anything remotely. I think it's a huge responsibility towards the managers, leaders in the companies to really facilitate properly how people can really meet and gather and exchange ideas and build these connections. Because even in IT, that you can argue that a lot of the things that have to be done are maybe very isolated or focused, or people have to have focus time to really type these lines of code or figure out a solution. They still need people to spar with, and you're not going to trust your colleagues if you haven't really bonded with them. And bonding online is still not something that really brings the results we would love to. But coming that, maybe we have done a bit of our research as well. I mean, maybe not as extensive as Mikkel mentioned at Ericsson. We don't have such a data sample, but we can see as well from our consultants working in Denmark, Poland, and India, the preferences of how to get back and how to work further are as well a bit different. And they're different as well in an interesting way that, they're really kind of related as well to a bit of the culture aspects, where we can see the Danish colleagues who are very much used to collaboration, to working together, to figuring solutions. They would actually much more prefer to have these interactions in person in the offices. In the more let's say, in competitive cultures like Poland or India, where we competitive in the sense that we are about delivery, we want to kind of focus on and deliver our own pieces of work, then people are more prone to really working more remotely and working more in a flexible way. So I mean, yeah, we can't. I mean, it's just happened. We can't get rid of it. But it's about the organizations really to facilitate the proper collaboration, because the collaboration is going to be key. And new tools, new technologies, all these virtual reality things coming around the corner. I think they're going to be exciting. Maybe sound scary today, but I believe that they're going to be something that we're going to mix. But finding the right balance is going to be a different thing for every organization, and especially global organizations that will have to have some kind of local cultural aspects to take into considerations. Can't really force one solution everywhere, because that's just not going to fly. And when you think about regulations, I think regulations are always a bit something that it kind of falls a bit behind when things start moving very quickly. And I think in Poland still we don't have, like, in the labor law, there's not, I mean, there's projects still right now and being processed where you have to really actually do some proper regulations. We have some of these shield regulations, anti-crisis shield regulations right now in force, but there is one aspect, for instance, that is actually still pretty tricky, that digital signatures are not like widely, let's say, acceptable in terms of like in the Polish law. I mean, there's a topic with the intellectual property rights. So I mean, if you don't actually have a physical contract signed or have like the digital signature, that is this verified identity signature, not a simple sent by mail or something. I mean, this is then this intellectual property rights are not really properly covered, and that's actually creates some challenges for competitiveness of companies. So I think there's still going to be some struggles, and that's why as well, like, various organizations are lobbying as well to governments to kind of really speed up these projects, because they're crucial, because employers have to have a way of actually regulating how the remote work is organized, how much do we have to, where's the responsibility for equipment, for the additional costs that people are bearing at homes instead of at the offices and all that stuff, and what happens if some people get injured during the day of work, who takes responsibility for that? So that's actually a pretty complex stuff. But I think in general, technology creates for us a lot of interesting ways as well to socialize. Maybe we just need to take socializing out of Zoom and Teams, just change the context a bit to go to a different platform to have fun. But yeah, let's still make sure that we have a chance to meet up and create these relations and create these bonds, because I believe strongly in this spillover effect, this serendipity effect, this coffee talk, that you can do something to stimulate it online, but it's never going to be the same thing. And you really have to have these spontaneous opportunities to actually to figure out something and have these aha moments together, just passing each other on the corridor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, job is done, but we shouldn't forget there are people behind the computer. Yeah, and then we are just human beings and we need others. Thank you very much for this part. I think we are coming slowly to the end, but even knowing that maybe we'll make it a few minutes longer, I would like to ask you for just a short summary, the very last sentence, the short one from each of you. Maybe Alexander, can you start what you would like to share as the last comment?
Once again, I will repeat that people are most important, and I think having data-driven decisions is very important. So each company actually can make those, actually can create surveys. There are surveys that are actually internal ones, but also as mentioned, you can use surveys like Leesman, and also there's a survey called Experience per Square Foot created by Cushman and Wakefield. So there are different surveys where you can get benchmarks, you can see what are the trends, and also it's just very important, even if you have company guidelines, it's good to involve people in the discussion, even if if their decision is minimal, they feel actually being considered in the discussion. And always looking at different projects with big companies, if you do small tweaks and people actually see that their opinion was taken into consideration, they will highly appreciate it, and they will be more creative, and they will be more productive in work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Karolina, can you share with us your last comment?
Yes, so from my perspective, flexibility of both location and time of work, seems to be the key to the success of the future workplace. And it should be combined with psychological safety and with taking into account employees' preferences, without, of course, sacrificing long-term sustainability of business. And one more sentence, I think, to Mikael, that if you will ever find a way for me to eat a cinnamon roll during fika without calories, then wow, just take my money. So this is definitely a direction. But coming back to the summary, flexibility and psychological safety.
Thank you very much, Michael. It seems you are you have challenge now.
I see a new business opportunity. Yes.
Definitely. Thank you, Carolina. Okay, can we continue? Oh, what about you, Michael, with your last comment to everybody who joined us today?
No, I think, first of all, I think it's important to mention that one size fits all will not work. We are all different companies. We are in 180 countries. That means something compared to a company that is all centered around the headquarters in one location. So we're all different. So I think it's important, as you also said, Alexander, use the data, understand the data, analyze the data, and get heavy data, because there are so many opinions around this topic, and there are opinions that are, let's be honest, quite biased by your own situation and what you believe the future will be. But the data actually guide you a little bit, combined with what kind of company we actually want to be, and create the best of both worlds. And then I think finally, and now we have a good representation of different competences in this panel as well. You work cross-functionally in this. Don't let real estate just define what the future workplace is, or IT or HR for that matter. We need to work together across and actually put the users and our employees in the center of the solution, create the user experience around it 360 degrees, so that real estate, IT, and HR are working together on finding and defining the future here. So that would be my advice and summary.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael. Lilia, can we ask you?
Yeah. I mean, as the bank, we need to answer the question, yes, what is the most effective way for business to do the business? And as a matter of fact, 2020 was a record high, actually, year results SCB generated ever. Yeah, but again, on this, we need to, again, to consider the productivity working from home and versus working from the office. At the end, it's all about, I would say, the psychological and mental health of our employees. It's about their well-being. Naturally, we need to take care of them. It's about inclusive teams, empathic leadership, and nurturing trust. And because people are the core of our organization, I think psychological safety, and also will echo Carolina here, would be the most important, because people are the bank. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. What a beautiful ending. Thank you very much for this one, Lilia. And Jakub, your thoughts for the end.
Yeah, I think I can't add anything much more wiser that has been already mentioned, but by both Lilia, Karina, Mikhail, Alexander, and yeah, I think future for us in general, and the future for any organization, is exactly about the well-being of people, the safety of how we can really make them efficient, and finding this way how this organization, which with its values, with its direction, can actually make it work. So building trust, making sure that we create the environment that helps them grow and not stresses them, that they're constantly monitored whether they're at their PC or not. So yeah, I think trust and empathy are something that we have to really work on and continue enhancing in our daily lives.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, just notice we are talking more and more also about these soft skills, which were, in the good old times, let's call it like this, very often forgotten. Yeah. So we are talking about relations, about communications, about looking after each individual, and empathy. I like the most. Thank you very much for finding time for us. Thank you very much for sharing with us and participating in this panel. But before we finish, I have a question to Agnieszka, who was following the chat. Do we have any questions from the public?
Yes, Wanda. We want, if you have still a few minutes to spare with us, we have questions from audience, and we would love to tackle you. Although you summarized your thoughts already in such a beautiful manner, but let's give a try to the question from the audience. The first question comes from Legniady. Do you think that companies' values have a significant impact on workplace resiliency? And if yes, which values are the most helpful ones? Any volunteers?
I would actually
Carolina
volunteer.
Thank you,
Because
Carolina.
I strongly believe that they do. So I'm more than happy to share this opinion. But just a heads up,
Oh, did we hear Carolina?
I think we don't have a 5G connection.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Obviously, we need one.
Yeah.
We've
Let me know
lost
who to
Carolina
call.
for a second. A first volunteer and already a problem. So maybe we will get back to this question, and we have the second one. Maybe Jakub, I think you were mentioning that it's important role for leaders to prepare the teams. So there is a question from Magda Kusoć from Interculture. How are you preparing leaders for leading teams at flexible workplace? Carolina, we will get back to you shortly. Okay.
Well, this is, I think, how we're preparing leaders. I think a lot of the things have been already mentioned here in terms of what we should focus on and what to look for. So, the focus on people has to be there, obviously, because we have to all remember that last year we didn't volunteer to go working remotely with our families and kids at home, and maybe not the most comfy desk, right? So this whole situation created a lot of stress and uncomfortable situations in people's daily lives. So we have to really make sure that teams, each team kind of can find their own way. We have a practice at 7N right now at administration teams that pretty much every team kind of finds their own way of kind of how to really work, how to communicate, when to have a daily stand up, when to have a meeting with the video on, and sometimes maybe when we don't really need the video on and kind of just chit chat about the current elements. And we can see these different practices evolving within our clients as well, where they really give this freedom of choosing the rhythm for a team. And something that is very crucial always is just for within a team context, building this kind of team agreement that everybody in the team kind of really have voices how they prefer to communicate, which channel they're more comfortable with, and really just finding this common way that everybody buys into, and then it makes a really comfortable place for them and to perform. So it's this is like, I think we are shifting from a lot of really focusing on technicals and whether people can really log in into Zoom or Teams, but really making sure that people listen to each other and kind of really focus on the soft values and soft skills, and have to be really cautious about what kind of solutions they do. And it's more about servant leadership these days than much more than any time before.
Thank you, Jakub, so much. I hope it answers Magda's concerns or given tips. There is one more question from the audience, and I think, Alexander, you are looking as an eagle from all the perspectives, and can the companies are sharing with you what will be the benefits for employees in the future?
Yes, so actually, I think in terms of benefits for the future, if companies are actually going back to the office, if I understand the question correctly, are the things that were mentioned during the call actually. So the first thing is learning. So it's very important that we know that younger employees are learning much better in the real world and than rather than the virtual. Also, we see younger generation actually wanting to be in the office. There are different aspects. One is the socialization. Also, there are aspects of their housing and having limited space for doing work. So actually, if you're not in a good situation and you don't have a separate room, it might be a challenge. And if you have if you're co-living, for example, with your colleagues, and let's say they are not quiet during your working time, so actually then the office might provide a better workplace for you. Also, though, there are aspects connected with um, being creative. So as mentioned, having the conversation next to the coffee machine or actually bouncing into each other and having the aha moment where we actually wouldn't thought of something. And I think also having the diversity, and this is something, if we have our own team, probably the manager will recruit people who will be thinking in a way, and bouncing off between different teams and different views of people allows us to be more creative and create new ideas. And there's also this effect of uh, echo in communication. So actually, if we are in the same team, we are looking for the messages that we actually approve, and having different views allows us to be more diverse and allows us to have a different vision for different areas. And also it might influence the workplace in terms of creating different structures. So we don't put teams in one area, we actually mix teams. It might be a matrix for the whole floor or even for the whole building. And then you have a chance to actually spontaneously sit next to a person, even if you're from, let's say, from HR, you're able to sit from a person from finance and have a conversation that actually can influence the way you think.
Thank you, Alexander. That also supports really the competitiveness of the companies on the market. I see Karolina is back with us. Karolina, so let's go back one more time to the question in respect of values in the companies. Is there any values that are kind of bringing people together more, and there are more relevant for organizational development?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for waiting for me while I experienced a computer crash with this question, because it is super important to me. And I think that indeed companies that rely on values like care for each other or trust, they name it differently, but the essence is the same. So if trust is one of the values of the company, and if care for each other is one of the values of the company, then it's definitely easier to establish the way of work that helps people to stay together despite of the fact that they are apart. And I don't know if you have noticed, but there were signs that some of the companies were putting tracking programs on people's computer to check how many times you are moving your mouse or your keyboard to make sure that people are actually working from home. This is the definition of lack of trust that impacts psychological safety of employees in the most terrible way. And companies that have this relationship that is established, that is based on trust, were able to simply give the tasks and to give people a freedom to choose how they are going to do that. That's one. Second one is this, we call it careful life, but different companies call it differently. But that means this really deep-rooted care for your well-being, health, and safety as an employee. And that is all-encompassing, and it starts with physical safety. Like, have you, as a company, made sure that people actually have a safe workplace at home? Do they have an ergonomic chair and ergonomic desk? Can you support them with that? Secondly, do you have an office that is prepared for all kinds of biological threats? And are you able to facilitate interactions in a safe way? And thirdly, when it comes to psychological aspect of caring for each other, do you understand that people are in different situations and that people are sometimes in a very difficult, very exhausting situations when they have to combine everyday work with their everyday home responsibilities? And this is especially true for women who are, well, I think the vast majority of caretaking responsibilities, and we know it from different studies, falls on women. So do we as an employer create an environment when you feel that this is safe for you, for your career, when your child, appears in the back and asks you for 2 cookies and you say immediately yes, is it okay these kind of interruptions, if these kind of interruptions appear? And only employers who have deeply embedded care for each other and for employers first and foremost are employees, sorry, first and foremost, are really prepared to handle such a traumatic, let's put it that way, situation.
Thank you, Karolina. That was really insightful and really close to our hearts. We as a SPCC are promoting Scandinavian values in Scandinavian workplaces, and trust what is the goal of Scandinavian values. So we support this attitude towards workplace, absolutely, and we will be for sure continuing this kind of conversation with employers. I have last one question from the audience. In terms of actually well-being of our employees, and do you think that this mental health well-being topic will become one of business KPIs which leaders will be responsible for? And that question was from Ivona Kastunovic. Thank you, Ivona, for this question. Any comments to that?
Can I volunteer again?
Sure. Please welcome, Karolina.
Because I believe so. Yes, well, maybe I should say I hope so. So, I think long term, this is something that is super important to all of us as society. And this employee-employer relationship is a very specific, special relationship that is by definition asymmetric. That means that it creates a lot of tension when it comes to psychological safety. And I think that now is the time when employers start to recognize their duty of care and the duty of care of not only physical but also psychological, mental health. And I can see the trend of this getting more and more to the top of the agenda. And I can see that there are industries that are more or less troubled with these kind of tension that can create mental health disturbances. And I see that the employers are taking responsibility. So this is what I think is going to happen in the future, that with the influence comes responsibility, and that is going to be part of the business agenda as well.
That's very positive message to all of the leaders and employees, of course. There is no more questions, so I would like to thank you so much for staying with us longer. We prolonged the 20 minutes, so thank you for your patience and all your engagement in the discussion. we will for sure be back with the Scandinavian workplace topic. Thank you, Wanda, for leading the interesting and really insightful conversation. Thank you to all our great speakers joining us from different places. I hope next time we will meet maybe in a hybrid format. And if I may use this opportunity, we would like to invite you to our next event. We'll be connected with green cities and revitalization processes that we are going through and how green transition influences our way of living in cities. So save the date for the June 9th and we will see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.